Good evening, and thank you for joining us. My name is Ashley, and I'm here with FTMIG Events. Tonight, we have CEO of AI ML Innovations Inc., Paul Duffy. He is going to give an overview of the company, the milestones, and a highlight on the next 100 days, maybe 90 days, whichever way he wants to phrase it. On that note, I'll turn it over to Paul. Let's go.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Ashley. Much appreciated. Hello, everybody. Hello from Toronto. Most importantly, welcome to 2024. I think for everybody, I hope it is a prosperous, successful, and rewarding year for everybody. Ashley, I'm going to try to share my screen here. If anything blows up, goes wrong, basically call for help. There we go. All right. Can you see that? I'm pretty sure you can.
Yep.
All righty. Well, thank you to all of our current and future shareholders for your attention tonight. I'm going to spend about 20 minutes going through, what I view as the next 90, that is the Q1 calendar 2024 milestones and objectives. Lots of exciting stuff, coming out of the tailwind and momentum that we built over the first 100 days at the back end of 2023. With that, I'd like to thank once again all the fabulous staff, employees, freelancers, the entire stakeholder community within AIML that is working basically every day to create value for us. And so to each and every one of them, I've said this to them already, but just to go on record, a prosperous 2024 to you and your family, and looking forward to just a fantastic year as we go forward. So with that, let me take us through the agenda. I'd like to just set a little bit of context. I'll spend a moment or two just as a recap for the first 100 days. Then I'll go obviously deep into the next 90. And I'll talk a little bit about some of those milestones, the updates that are happening. And then, of course, happy to spend as much time as necessary with the good folks that are online with us today to do a Q&A. So with that, as you know, I began September 11th, interesting date for sure, as CEO of AIML. And I shared with everybody that, really I just roll my sleeves up. I began by recruiting a great team, Andrew Crow, head of sales and growth, brought in Mike Curter, helped me with some organizational customer, let's just call it account exec functions, really looked at refactoring the great technology stack that we had so I could really identify those early product market fit opportunities, which I'm going to share with you today. Repositioned based on that, some of the value props, and absolutely relaunched the business with a pretty tight focus on those value props and some very specific buyer personas. And then, like most people who know me, we just run really hard and charge into the market fast. Through the first quarter, the first 100 days, we really, the thinking on my end was, let's get in and just give ourselves about $1 million as a target so that we could book orders. And I did that for a couple of reasons. A lot of these deals were floating in the orbit between Tech to Heal and Health Gauge, but more importantly, it allowed me to kind of roll my sleeves up, get our teams working together, and nothing really aligns a team than getting a deal closed. Delivery is a big deal. You got to be good on that, but getting it closed really helps to, sort of quickly separate, I'll call them non-productive activities from productive activities. So, the good news, and I shared this at the back end of last year, was that, we managed to obtain, roughly about $1 million in bookings rolling into the 2024 window. I also wanted to put a very diligent effort on getting our technologies to the point where we would be able to go into the FDA certification cycle. So I'll give you an update, a very positive one, as we go forward over the next 90 days on that. And then finally, the idea of raising about $1 million to give us some walking around money and some fresh capital to execute through, I'll call it the first half of 2024. And as you can see here, we did just under, it was a bit just over 750. And so as I look forward, and this is basically coming into January and out to the back end of March, if I could describe what I would refer to as the next 90 days, that is calendar, 2024 Q1, in a word, it would be build. The idea here is that we want to build funnel and create pipeline. And to do that, I'm going to present to you today what will soon be launched, probably Monday or Tuesday of next week, is the Health Gauge Biometrics website. And this website's been designed and aligned against those early product market fit discussions with customers, with prospects, and with existing opportunities that we're working to close. Most websites, as you know, when you build them, they're done specifically for one thing and one thing only: lead gen. In other words, a call to action to get one of our reps on the phone and start discussing how to move the ball forward to close a deal. So I think you'll quite like what you're about to see. The second thing we're going to do through the quarter is we're going to build products. We've got a great running curve start coming out of the quarter. Allakine Health, as everybody knows, is a very strong and scalable platform. And so too is the Health Gauge Biometrics platform. Neither of these products are what I would consider absolutely perfect, but they're very good. And as a curb start to get us running into the market, they're perfect. And so what I'm proposing is that the teams today are focused very tightly on delivering our first product, January 31st, what I'm calling the Pulse Whisperer. This will be for biometric raw signal data. So in other words, the ability to capture basically unlimited time series biometric data from our smart sensors running on our watch. We have a wonderful little weight scale, and we're actually looking at rings as well as another option. But there's an enormous market within the research community of life sciences for this. So this is, academia, this is healthcare, university hospital networks, folks that are really studying how to use biometrics for the improvement of conditions. And so I'm going to share with you some of the activities that are happening around that. And I'm very excited. Bruce and his team at Health Gauge have done a great job getting us to the point where we can literally license out this data capture and, of course, our patented neural nets. So good news on that front, and I'm happy to share it with you. The second thing we're going to do is on February 29th, we're going to launch a product that I'm calling Follow Your Heart. This is our non-invasive blood pressure measurement product. So in other words, we'll be able to measure, monitor, and assist with the management of your blood pressure. And we all know this was the original smartwatch that was launched. We've had great progress on the neural net. It's moved ahead quite nicely. I'll show you that tonight as we go through the presentation. But we are very close to realizing that vision and that goal of having what I would call retail-focused product for blood pressure measurement, non-invasive blood pressure measurement. So simply use your watch, take as many measurements as you want, and utilize our biometrics platform, and you're off and running. So I'm excited to show you where we're progressing on that this evening. And then finally, as we round out the quarter, the first 90 days, what I'm looking to do here is launch version 2 of the Health Gauge Biometrics platform for health sciences. I'm excited about this because the original vision of capture, analyze, and action has now been realized. We've gone through the process. We've developed the teams, the roadmaps, the product market fit. You'll see shortly with the websites, the go-to-market capability, and we'll begin to really create that platform that I believe will put Health Gauge and therefore AI/ML on the stage for a highly scalable opportunity as we go through the balance of the year. So I'm quite excited about this. We've brought in some external resources to assist Bruce and his team to get this into market. And they are, of course, just as Bruce's team is, the best in the space. And we're going to just crush this. So I'm looking forward to showing you that as we go through the quarter. The third thing I'm going to do is look at building auxiliary or ancillary value for our shareholders. So what do I mean by that? Well, the first thing is, you may or may not know, but we have an operating subsidiary, AIRX Incorporated. This was a company that was established when we took in the license, the exclusive license of Allakine Health here in North America. So we're going to activate that through the quarter. That really just means we're going to take over an instance of the Allakine Health platform and make it available to our company here in North America for the pursuit of opportunities. I shared a lot of the opportunities that Tech2Heal have been successful with around the space in Europe. And what I'm most interested in, certainly in 2024, is this idea of the distributed clinical trials. So if I roll back to this idea of the Pulse Whisperer, where we're utilizing our smart sensors to do the biometric capture, it only makes sense that we twin that with the distributed clinical trial management system so that researchers, healthcare providers and life sciences institutions can utilize that capability for the benefit of all. So in other words, they can run these very rapid, remote, distributed clinical trials. It's a wonderful market. I think the segment is ripe for a disruptor, and I plan to have AIRX be that disruptor. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to continue on training our neural net. We're very close, and I'm going to show and share with you tonight where we're at on that. But I believe that as we go through the quarter, we'll be in a position, Randy and his team at HealthGauge have done great work to actually begin the process of the FDA certification. At the same time, I've asked Randy and his team to continue to look for additional grants and research programs, primarily because there's an awful lot of money available for non-dilutive funding to help us progress much of the technology and much of the science that we're working on. And to help with that, I'm going to establish a science and product advisory council as we go through the quarter. I've been socializing this with a number of folks in my network. There's great interest, and I'm looking forward to updating our shareholders as we go through the quarter on that advance as well. But for now, if I could say one thing, this quarter is all about one word: build. In fact, three words: build, build, and build. So to that, let me take you to the next step, and that's essentially introduce you to the new HealthGauge website. Ultimately, what I wanted to do was build a platform that would do one thing and one thing only, and that's lead generation. So rather than show you a bunch of videos, let's actually just take the thing for a tour. And here, Ashley, I'm hopeful that I don't blow it, but let me know if this works, if you're still with me.
I was muted. Yes, we can see it.
Not a problem. Okay, it's working. Good. Woohoo. So at some point through next week, we will do the proverbial DNS and CNAME, et cetera, swaps to get this up and live. But what I do want to point out is that we have streamlined the site to be very, very focused on our three products that I spoke to and what we're going to release as we go through the quarter. So the talk track around this, and we've validated this with, Andrew, Mike, and myself as we've been, prospecting and developing business, this idea of biometrics unleashed. There is no doubt that HealthGauge has a proverbial X factor in its ability to capture robust, rich time series data through their smart sensors on the watch. And so we're playing up to that. We are literally using that as our differentiator, and it's working. And so let me share with you a little bit of this biometric magic through a bit of a walkthrough of what it is we present to these prospects and what's getting us some strong interest. The first is obviously we've got the smartwatch, we've got a smart scale, and we'll soon have a smart ring. And the idea is that we're able to use all of that to capture those rich signals and utilize our app so that we can pass that information through to our patented and proprietary neural network. This is most important because what comes out of the neural net is this biometric information pulse. In other words, if you remember me talking about capture, analyze, and action, in the context of analyze, the output is really a very intelligent biometric information pulse. Why? Because you can action that information with a remote monitoring platform. And so through that, we're able to take that particular data and bring it in through the portal into the platform, and then allow healthcare professionals, or frankly, even individuals, to see the information, to better understand it, to act on it, and then basically follow up. And of course, because the platform is HIPAA compliant, we're able to basically share information back and forth, and then allow the healthcare provider to interact one-on-one with the particular either patient or frankly, the clinical trial, whomever's using the system. So it's a wonderful platform for us to basically position and sell. Of course, most people don't maybe forget about this, but HealthGauge has been around for a couple of years. And, we've got some really good clients. So I've highlighted a couple of them here. We've got some excellent R&D and clinical partners, and we've got an awful lot of industry program partners. So I feel we should stand tall and proud about that. We've also got, this is, kudos to Randy and to Bruce. These guys have really got some excellent testimonials from some pretty solid names. So I decided, let's make those front and center on the website. And so that's what you're seeing here. And then finally, it's all about putting the effort and the chips on this HealthGauge biometrics platform version 2. And that's what we're shooting for at the back end of the quarter. what I refer to as unleashing your qualified self. This is where the zeitgeist is going, where people are believing that these smart sensors, these wearables, will enable folks to better understand what is occurring in their health. And many of the clinicians, the physiotherapists, and frankly the healthcare professionals that we speak to, their view is to improve health through an incremental and data informed approach. And our platform sits squarely within that value proposition. So I'm quite happy with how that's unfolded. And then finally, as I mentioned, there's really only one purpose for a website, and that's to get leads. And so that's our call to action. So let me take you through a few product pages, and then I'll jump back to our presentation. But I'll begin with the middle here because that's the first product that we'll be rolling out. I'd like folks to remember that this is being designed specifically, to enable SEO, SEM, pay-per-click kind of ads. So what you're really going to look at here is a series of landing pages that allow us to target and message prospects into the space. So in this particular case, I'm a researcher. I'm looking for a product or a platform that's going to provide me with some biometric signal data. I'm kind of not too happy with what's going on with my Apple Watch, my Google Fit, etc. And I can see here that I've got opportunity to basically go in and get firmware for devices, SDKs for my apps. Oh, I've got APIs for my portals and web services. Oh, they've got some patented neural nets that can provide pretty much some pretty, I'll just call it highly accurate information around things like blood pressure measurement. So it's that basket or suite of technology that we're going to package and license out. And of course, for I'll call it additional fee, they'll be able to utilize our app and our platform should they wish to, in addition to getting access to our platform. What's also interesting is we have existing clients using the Pulse Whisperer right now. So I've highlighted them here, and they are on record with testimonials. So that's pretty solid. And then, of course, there's our contact call to action. The next one I'll talk about is the product that I referred to earlier as Follow Your Heart. And, I think this is a very innovative way for folks to get, for lack of a better term, a retail version. For this particular case, a wellness product. But when I show you where we've progressed on the neural net, I'm very confident we'll be into the FDA submission process through the quarter. But the idea here is that, again, as a landing page, we're driving interest into organizations that are looking to retail the product through their channels. Why? Because when you see the size of the market, heart disease is a big deal. And I think for a lot of people, you realize that, blood pressure measurement is probably the most effective tool out there to at least measure and then manage that particular issue. And so, we wanted to make sure that we had the product aligned and developed to fit within that. So the branding itself, obviously, is Follow Your Heart. It will have the smart sensor watch available. We will have the Health Gauge app, a version of it, referred to as the Follow Your Heart mobile app, made available through the app stores. And then, of course, you'll have full access for 12 months to our biometrics platform, which you can see some of the screenshots here of what the forthcoming platform is going to look like. And I believe as we begin to advance and work on this particular product, we're going to see an awful lot of interest in it because it is it's a great product. We have been showing it and using it in an awful lot of business development discussions. And this is not a one-off watch that people buy. This is folks looking to line up a lot of product SKUs and move that product quickly through their retail. So I'm excited about that. The final thing is version 2 of our, Health Gauge biometrics platform for health sciences. And so, that is really where I'd like us to end at the end of this quarter. A robust, highly scalable, bulletproof platform, highly contemporary, fully integrated with the Pulse Whisperer, with Follow Your Heart capability, but also a number of programs that we're currently working with through clinics right now. Because the platform itself is very nimble. It's a SaaS platform, so it's easy to set up, it's easy to scale. We're not doing one-offs. This is basically a platform, think of salesforce.com, something like that, where you use the platform and then you basically optimize or modify your program to take advantage of the platform. So in other words, you build the platform once, but it has utility across a variety of different programs. And that's because we're able to capture and manage our own signal data and then use that through our analysis into essentially our remote patient monitoring platforms. And so, that's really what this landing page is communicating to a potential prospect. And so we go through that, and of course we have our call to action. And I also have plenty of pages, on solutions. There's a full blog. There's an about us section, and I encourage our shareholders to check it out when we're basically live with it next week. But for the sake of time, I'll switch back to the presentation, and hopefully, Ashley, are we back at the presentation at this stage? I can't see, so I just want to make sure.
No, I think we're still on the we're still on. Now we are. No, we're on the website still.
All right,
That psyched
great.
me out.
Not a problem. So January 31st is when we want to release the Pulse Whisper with the raw signal data. We've already got active pursuits underway right now for it. Excited to share that with our shareholders as we go through the quarter. But I'm pretty, I really like the way Bruce and his team have pulled this one together. It's a fabulous product, and the research market, particularly in health sciences, is obviously significant. And I think given our opportunity to twin that, as I mentioned, with our Allokine Health platform, really provides us with a greater share of wallet when we're speaking to these researchers. So I'm kind of happy about that. Follow your heart. I think this is going to go down as one of those awesome products that we find in the early days. We move through retail channels and other distribution channels. We've got a lot of interest from corporates, insurance, and group buying organizations. But what I think we're going to come to see here, and this is for a couple of reasons, but I'd like to just sort of kind of take our shareholders through this. I showed this basically screen at our last town hall at the wrap up. And this really represents the current state of what the app and the portal does today. So this is the current working version of it. And it's pretty excellent, to be frank. It works very, very well. So what we wanted to be able to do, though, was this ECG and PPG signal. This is sort of central to our efforts on the neural net. And we really want to be sure that we can get that neural net tracking. Because as you can see, this is a monster opportunity. I don't want to kind of dwell too much on this, but heart disease, unfortunately, affects about 100 million people, in the U.S. alone. There's about 1.5 billion people worldwide. Sadly, we lose about 400,000 people a year to it, and there's about 50 billion sloshing around in the healthcare system, annually. And so, when I look at that and I see our platform and I think about, well, how do I get to like 1/120th of that particular 100 million person market, roughly about 50,000 units. How do I do that? What's the way to get into that market? Well, retail pharmacy is essentially one of the strongest channels for us to begin to execute that plan. And so that's what we're going to focus on. But in order for us to really get into, that level of discussion, we've got to have the ability to prove that our neural net has been sufficiently trained that it is worthy of FDA certification. And so, as you recall from the first 100 days, I had asked Bruce and Randy really to double down on this effort, because this is, in my opinion, the X factor that lives within the jewel of health gauge. And, I got to be frank, the guys stepped up and they did a great job. So, I showed this slide for systolic, showing that we've got great progress happening. I showed the diastolic as well. A lot of this is quite confusing to most people, but let me just simplify by saying the following: we are at current or better levels than FDA certification requirement for diastolic at the moment. And my suspicion is, as we go through the balance of January into early February, we will hit similar thresholds with our systolic readings. So, this really, best way for me to say this is without being too anticlimactic, a lot of effort has gone in by the team to get to this particular point. And I'm proud to inform our shareholders tonight that the team at HealthGauge have successfully achieved the training to the measurement of the FDA for diastolic, and will soon have achieved that for systolic with the blood pressure measurement. And why that's important is, if we think about the improvements and enhancements in the Follow Your Heart product with our platform, And we now have the ability to interlace into that a relatively advanced neural network, particularly one that is proprietary to us, but also patented. It allows us to really go into the market with a very strong value prop. There are a lot of watches out, and I'm sure you read a lot about Apple and Google and Fitbit. But the truth of it is, they do not provide the level of signal quality or access to that signal that you get with this particular watch. And so there is a very specific segment of the market that needs that data. And more importantly, they need access to it on a regular, continual basis. It's not so much that they just need it once. Most people, when they go through this, they use the app multiple times. And why do we like that? Well, if you're in retail pharmacy, our app, our smartwatch, and our smart sensor provides a strong conduit for you to begin communications with that particular customer. So think of it, every time they open up the app to take blood pressure, it could theoretically be the equivalent of them walking into your store and basically taking their blood pressure. And so that is something that's very attractive to these retail pharmacies. The final thing I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about where we're headed with the platform itself. We're currently in discussions with a number of clinics, with a number of healthcare institutions, and they're all very interested in how the platform itself can advance therapies, can advance programs and protocols. And so I believe the initial vision of what Bruce and Randy and the team had at HealthGauge was pretty much spot on. Devise a wearable, use a smart app, use an advanced neural net, and allow for a web portal to provide a ubiquitous platform for anybody to access their biometric data. And that's really what version 2 of this platform is going to unleash. So I'm pretty excited about it. And I think as we go through the quarter and I start showing glimpses of where we're headed, start talking about some of the wins that we're getting, and then actually show the product, I think you'll see the energy and the momentum behind the business really start to grow. So I refer to it as biometric magic because I'm always amazed as I get into this, just how amazing, how crazy this thing is, to actually use. Anybody that's actually played with the watch, I think, would say that as well. And the final slide I'll have before I jump into some Q&A here is, I walked everybody through this little animation earlier on the website, but I think it really helps to underscore the value proposition of HealthGauge, but at a broader level, AI/ML, and that's the ability to be able to capture, analyze, and action biometric information, signals, pulses, using AI, machine learning, and neural nets. This is a business opportunity that I think has now come. The market's very interested in it. The feedback that we're getting is very strong. And I just can't wait to get sort of on the ice and playing the game to sell this stuff. We're very close. And I think, without a doubt, we have got one of the strongest, if not the strongest, value propositions in the market today. And so I'm looking forward to keeping our shareholders updated on it, letting them know where it's going, and basically just showing you in real time what's happening. So I think with that, Ashley, I'd like to, sort of pass it over to you and the team, and maybe we could take a little Q&A and go from there.
Yeah, that sounds good. We do have a few questions that have come in, so that's perfect.
Wonderful.
Okay. First question is from John. Paul, I am more of a spectator versus an investor. When it comes to small cap stocks, you are slowly converting me though. How aggressive are your timelines for most of these platforms you've talked about so far? And congrats on the new website. Hopefully you can convert to sales.
Yeah, well, two things. Thank you. First, I'll begin with the end. The idea here with that website is, as I said, to do one thing and one thing only: get leads. Oftentimes, particularly in the early days, as you're lifting, businesses up and bringing new tech into the market, it's pretty much a one-on-one conversation with the buyer, and that's what I'm hoping to affect here. I think the timelines that I've put forward for the products, they're a little bit ambitious, but they're very doable. HealthGauge is a small, nimble business. They operate, under a bit of a credo. I think we've all heard it. High feature velocity, low organizational friction. I think that's an Elon Musk comment. But they're very focused on getting the Pulse Whisperer up and out for the end of January. I will say that there is a platform. HealthGauge does currently operate a platform, so it's not like we're starting from scratch. What we're really doing is we're going to take the existing HealthGauge platform. We're going to spend some time really rationalizing down a lot of the features, putting them through a fairly intense QA cycle, and then putting them through a release management program so that they can go out into the wild, stable, secure, and scalable. And so that's really what I'll call January 31st is. And then we've got a bit of breathing room until we hit Feb 29th. I thought it was kind of interesting. It was a leap year. So I wanted to use that date for the launch of Follow Your Heart. But that product too does currently exist, just not in the incantation that I'm looking at. So in other words, it currently does allow you to take your blood pressure. It measures it quite well. It utilizes the existing neural net. But what I want to do is muscle all of that up. I want to take a either near FDA or FDA quality type neural net, put that into the product. I want to really finesse the platform, focus it solely on blood pressure measurement, not all the other stuff that is possible with it, and then pull it out specifically as an app, Follow Your Heart, and make that available through the App Store and through Android. So that when anybody does purchase this product, it's as simple as downloading the app, activating the watch, and they're in. That simple. And then finally, version 2 of the HealthGauge platform, that's going to be a lift. There'll be some effort. There'll be some, work. We'll release it in stages. So we'll hit the 31st date of March, and then we'll do probably a point release 2 weeks later, point release 2 weeks after that. And I just don't really see that ending because it is a scalable SaaS platform. We're able to do that. And we've got what I think is a nice quantum of early clients that will work with us on that. So we're not at risk of putting the business into any sort of liability stage. In other words, we'll be able to continue to service and maintain those clients as we're upgrading the platform. And then as we go through Q2, I've got a lot of plans there, but I didn't want to put too many on the table tonight to just continue to evolve and advance that platform. So I feel fairly confident we'll hit those milestones.
That's great. Alexander has asked if you can explain the Follow Your Heart platform in more detail.
Sure. So it's interesting. What I'm trying to do there, first off, the name. It's all for hypertension. As you know, heart disease, massive, issue, as well as an opportunity. I think we can do some good here. Bruce and his team, if you think about it, it kind of like it began with this idea of a neural net that would be able to take essentially an ECG and a PPG signal from a watch, which is really a bunch of light diodes on the back of the watch. And in a non-invasive way, in other words, you don't have to put cuffs on, you don't have to break skin. You can basically hold the watch, and for about 45 to 60 seconds, that watch will capture enough biometric signal data and deliver it to that neural net to provide on the back end a very accurate information pulse of your blood pressure. It does a bunch of other stuff too because it's a rich signal data. It's 60 seconds of millions of data points that are being passed through the system. And so the product will have obviously the smartwatch, the smart sensor watch is probably a better way to say it, a mobile app, which today is the HealthGauge app. You can download that on the app stores and view it. Think of that as a more aligned or tailored version specifically for blood pressure. And then it will also include an ID to a user portal, which is running on their platform. And so you have your smartwatch, you have your app, and you have your portal. Between those three, you're able to pretty much take as many measurements of your blood pressure and then use that through the dashboard to better understand how you're tracking, to actually communicate with your healthcare provider about how you're tracking. You can monitor it. You can take as many as you want. So, you can do one day and 10 the next day. But really what most people we're seeing use it for today is they will use it to see the difference between measurements over a period of time. So it's not so much an individual snapshot of your blood pressure, it's the delta between the snapshots that people are looking for. And so that's where I think the platform will really excel. It'll provide that in a very easy, ubiquitous way. You're on mute there, Ashley.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
Okay. Charles has asked, would it be easier to sell this tech to a company that already has large market share with the smartwatches? If you agree, how would you go forward?
So yes and yes. The Pulse Whisperer is so I see it serving two kind of means to one end, um, or maybe perhaps two ends to one means. Anyways, let me explain. No doubt, researchers need the rich time series data. They need it for two reasons. They want to be able to study it and utilize it in research, obviously, but time series data is fundamental to utilizing predictive analytics as you begin to forward think and apply AI in that context. And so there's great value in that. At the same time, we've got access through the Pulse Whisperer to our proprietary and patented neural nets, specifically in this case for blood pressure measurement. Doesn't mean we're going to stop there. Bruce and his team, you look at their whiteboards, got a lot of other areas, and when you listen to a lot of our kind of prospects and opportunities, they've got a lot of areas, and I see synergies between those. So at some point that neural net or neural nets will grow. However, because we are able to provide that rich sampling of data, and we have those neural nets, I do envision us being able to license and sell that into the iWatch and the Google Fit ecosystem. In other words, the Watch OS ecosystem and app developers that are looking to access that level of quality can do that by purchasing licenses from us through Pulse Whisper. So that's for Android as well as iOS. I see a lot of opportunity where certain types of wearable manufacturers will approach us because they would like to feather in our capability into their product offer. I don't think we'll exit. I believe before we exit 2024, there will be wearable clothing with smart sensors in it. We talk to others right now that have it on the back of the neck that are looking at using this type of technology that we have within the Pulse Whisperer as an adjunct to what they're working on. So I see our opportunities to license our tech into that ecosystem as a pretty solid opportunity through 2024. And I fully expect that we will do that. I hope that answered the question.
I think that was great. And John would like to know, Paul, what's been the biggest challenge so far?
Oh, well, like all businesses, there's always challenges. What I will say is, for the most part, I feel pretty supported, from our chairman, Tim, all the way down. So that's been good. I think, I wouldn't say I've had any, hard stop challenges per se. I think it's like any kind of new CEO, it's just getting into the rhythm. These are smaller businesses too, right? So there's an element of informality. There's an element of perhaps sophistication in certain areas is not as robust as perhaps it could be. But to be honest, it doesn't need to be. They're not at that level that it requires. And then of course there's the usual time challenges of zones, and you're an international bit of a business, so you've got time zones to deal with. So it's acclimatizing to that. But I do feel that a lot of that we have overcome. I've got a great rhythm with the team. The weekly cadence is improving, the quality is improving, of the outcomes that we're working on. And I'm quite happy about that. And I think you can see evidence in it. That neural net, I know it doesn't flash with sparks and stuff, but to get to the point where, in this case, I'll call it half the measurements done and exceeding the requirements, that's kudos to that team. They're doing a great job over there at HealthGauge on that.
Okay, Blake has submitted a question on behalf of John Weed, who is traveling. Um,
Okay.
he's he's asked, are you in discussion with any retail chains regarding the watch? If so, when do you expect to be able to start shipping?
Great question. So the first answer is yes, we are. The question at this stage is, our time frame is unknown. The reason for that is we're pushing to get the FDA certification started and underway. I think a lot of the pacing on the announcement of a deal like that will be predicated upon, the FDA submission, which I believe will happen as we go through this quarter if we can continue to stay at the current pace we're at. So, if I was, and I don't like to put these kind of dates out there, but I'll just broadly stroke it through 2024. But it is top of mind, and it's one of my personal objectives within AI ML is to get those orders in and out through those channels. So it'll happen as soon as we can make it happen for sure.
Perfect. Adam has asked, apologies if you already spoke to this, but could you speak to revenue or revenue growth to this point and near future with Tech to Heal? Could you speak to any cross/upselling opportunities with Tech to Heal and Health Gauge?
Oh, for sure. Well, Tech to Heal, similar to Health Gauge, they're relatively, small companies. Their revenues in Europe will likely come out predominantly through the bookings they had through the first, I'll call it the second half of 2023. And so, I would suspect they would, likely hit a few $100,000 through the year, perhaps more. We're focused primarily on North America. That's where the AIRX opportunity and the, quote, the joint venture, the exclusive license of their tech comes in. I don't really know how the revenue will go specifically for that in, quote, year one, 2024. But I'm pretty confident that, we will be flag planting, we'll be booking orders, and we'll be generating revenue. As to the quantum and size, I'm really not sure. When it comes to Health Gauge, they came in to 2024, with a continued opportunity through MedWatch and licensing of their neural net. I see us being able to significantly ramp their revenues through 24 and into 25. Not really comfortable in this quarter declaring what I think that will be, but I'm certain as I exit Q2, I'll have a very good handle on that because I'll have a general sense of the pacing of prospects to opportunities to close and then account development and scale. Because it's not just booking the deal to get the revenue. You've got to deliver. And, these are, as I mentioned, early businesses. We're scaling them. And so what I like to do is pull in opportunities that I believe will allow us to scale, coming out of the back end of it. So we may do one or two deals, but I'm putting the formative planks in place so we can do 8 to 10, and then 10 to 20, and then 20 to 40, that kind of idea. And so there is a bit of pacing required in that. So I'm a little, suspect every time I start putting projections out, but that is the approach we'll be taking. So I hope that helps. Hope that helps answer the question without answering the question directly.
Sounds a little bit like build there, some building.
Well, there is, and there will be orders, there will be new orders, there will be bookings for sure. As to the quantum of that, I don't really want to, kind of back anybody into a corner on that today. But that's definitely an awful lot of the talk track we'll see as we go into Q2 for sure.
Awesome. Okay. John has asked, can you ultimately hook into a doctor's record system and update his data set on a patient at some point in the future?
Yes, and I think it'll be the near future. As I go through the quarter, I'll be discussing and describing some of the deals we're in the middle of at the moment that are doing pretty much that. And so I'm excited about that. There's an awful lot of interesting technology when it comes to charting electronic medical records that is utilizing AI, APIs, and web services, through HIPAA compliant, platforms. And, interestingly, Bruce and the team, from day one, built their platform from a HIPAA compliant point of view. And so we feather in quite nicely to those opportunities, which is kind of interesting. So the short answer to that is yes, and soon.
Okay, I've got two questions here I'm kind of going to ask together because they're related.
Similar.
So the first half is, can you speak to timelines for the FDA approvals as far as expectations are concerned with shareholders? And then another part of it is, who on the team has been through the FDA process?
Very good questions. So Randy Duguay at Health Gauge, I don't know if he's gone through the actual FDA process himself. It's a good question, actually. I've not really asked him that per se. But without putting too fine a point on it, he's been working on this for about 3 years. We have more FDA capability surrounding Health Gauge than you would, otherwise want to care about. There are an abundance of third-party consultants, government participants, academia and university, parties and stakeholders, all anxiously awaiting the green light from us for the neural net to begin the certification process. And I have tasked Randy specifically through this quarter to achieve that. The reason for it is there is, in addition to access to know-how and capability, there are monies, there's financial incentives for groups like ours to go through the FDA process, domiciled here in Canada or in the United States. And we have similar activities happening with with Tech to Heal over in France. But I'm particularly close to what's going on here in Canada, primarily because of the proximity in our ownership position, obviously, within HealthGauge. And so I do believe that as we go through Q1, we will have begun the either certification process or we'll be active in trials. And you can be sure I'll be keeping our shareholders updated on that because it is, as we all want, top of mind to get done and get in market.
Perfect. Clinton has asked, Paul, do you have the right teams in place to get the work done? That's where most small caps have failure.
I would agree with that. So my answer to that particular question is yes. I think Bruce and the group are very strong. I have brought in a number of folks that have worked with me in prior businesses, and we are all working collectively as a team against the milestones that I spoke to. My primary effort here is to support Bruce as the CTO to get these products built and delivered to the level that we can rely on selling them. And I have all confidence in Bruce. I have all confidence in Randy and the teams that are around us at the moment. So no, I don't feel we're at risk in any capacity. And what I'm hopeful is that, we exit the quarter with the milestones achieved. But more importantly, and I've been very clear with the team about this, I talked earlier about that level of sophistication. One of the exit points that I'll be looking for in Q1 is the workflow process between our growing sales organization and what it's hearing from the leads, from the opportunities, and from the accounts or the clients that we have, and how we inform our engineering and product team about what it is we need that is net new or additive to the platform. And then the development of that, and then the release, support, and delivery of it back over to the sales team and their clients. And that workflow process, while not originating as a quote milestone deliverable, is a significant portion in the process. And so that is something that, fits very squarely in my wheelhouse. And one of the things that I'm looking to ensure we do by the end of the quarter, because you just cannot scale in any level without that sophistication in place. In other words, the sales guys, based on what they're hearing from leads, from opportunities, and from clients, is driving the product roadmap beyond what we release after March 31. That's key.
Okay. Adam is asking, can you give us any insights into innovation and glucose measurements?
I can't specifically, but Bruce could probably talk to you about that all day long.
We'll get him on one of these webinars one day.
I think we should. Yeah.
Okay. Don would like to know, when do you expect to be in position to give an update on the Essilor/Luxottica
Luxottica. Yeah.
I can't read. Opportunity. And that's the question.
Right. Yeah, that's a Fabrice Parkin question. I would suspect we could happily update that through the quarter. That's one of those sort of opportunities. Consortium, a lot of parties involved, a lot of moving parts. And, it's happening sort of on its own time and on its own dime in Europe. And so, for me, it's one of those things where I just keep a cold, eye on it, knowing it's going to happen, it's going to get developed. Meanwhile, in the here and now, for me, it's all about build through this quarter. So I don't have a hard specific date on Essilor-Luxottica, but I'd be happy to, any updates I do get, share that with shareholders, either through a town hall like this or perhaps even an announcement if it's material enough.
Perfect. That wraps it up for the questions, unless anyone else would like to sneak in any last minute questions for Paul. I think that might be it for today.
All right, great. Well,
Okay,
maybe actually let me wrap by just, wishing again as we started, everybody have a great 2024. Thank you to our shareholders, to our current shareholders. Appreciate your support. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can as we build the business. Likely we'll get into Q2. I'll start reaching over to shareholders and asking for help in certain areas, specifically around introductions and lead gen. But as you can see, this is the quarter to build. We've got a great running curve start with the platform. I think we've got a great team, and we're surrounded by some really strong people. So my expectation is that what I presented today, when I give you the update, at the end of the quarter, we will have met or perhaps exceeded. And so I thank you for your trust in me and trust in the team, and look forward to just continuing to drive value for our shareholders. So Ashley, with that, thank you very much. Thanks for your team. Follow the money, and I hope everybody has a wonderful evening.
That's great. Thank you so much, Paul. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.